Hello, everyone. Today we'll be reading the book Julia on the Go Swimming into Trouble by Angela Ahn and illustrated by Julie Kim. A quick summary. Swim team member Julia Nam is the youngest on the team at Mountain View Community Center. But she's definitely not the slowest. Julia can't wait for Personal Best Day, the most important day for all swimmers. But then the worst thing happens, an ear infection. How could she get time during Personal Best Day when she's not allowed in the water? Now let's begin. Chapter 1. Julia tucked her chin in tight to her chest, just like Coach Marissa had taught her. When she dove into the pool, she loved the way her fingers first broke through the surface of the water before her body followed. The few seconds she was under water with her arms stretched out like a torpedo were the best. When she came back up to the surface, Julia gasped for a breath of air before she sped down the lane, doing her quickest front crawl. Her feet fluttered, stirring the water behind her. As soon as she touched the wall after finishing her 8 warm-up laps, she turned and took a quick peek at lane number 2. There was the middle lane, and Olivia Hung always preferred it. Julia liked lane 3 best because it was right next to the rope that separated the 3 swim team lanes from the public swim lanes. The pool was almost always busy, but the swimmers in those public lanes usually took it easy and didn't churn the water like the members of the Vipers did. She and Olivia had jumped off the blocks at the same time, but Olivia was nowhere near her. In fact, Julia could see that Olivia had just touched the opposite wall. Julia could not stop the smile that slowly spread her across her face, and she caught her breath. With each practice this session, she seemed to be getting faster and faster. They'd only been back for a few weeks since their summer break, too, but today was the first time she was full length ahead of Olivia. At the end of last season, they had been at the same speed. Julia felt sure that she must have grown during the summer. Julia tracked the top of Olivia's green swim cap all the way down the lane. She watched it slice through the water as Olivia coasted in to tap the wall. After Olivia grabbed the pool's edge and took a full breath of air, she looked surprised to see Julia already hanging on the rope lanes. "Did you only do 6 lengths?" Olivia huffed as she adjusted her goggles. Her lenses were very dark, and Julia couldn't see the expression in Olivia's eyes. "Nope, all 8." Julia was able to reply calmly because she had enough time to recover. Olivia's lips puckered. "Well, I don't want to burn myself out too fast. They're just warm-up laps. You're going out too hard." Julia shrugged. She didn't think that there was such a thing as trying too hard. She opened her mouth to reply, but before she could say anything else, Coach blew her whistle, and the warm-up was over. The real practice was just getting started. Julia focused on listening to the instructions and readied to swim even harder. The rest of the session flew by. The team did their usual drills. They practiced their best strokes. They practiced their weakest stroke. It was always butterfly. They did their flips, turns over and over. At the end of the training session, everyone was tired, even Julia. But Julia wasn't too tired for splash time. Coach Marissa always let the team have 5 minutes of fun just before it was time to go home. Splash time was the best. No stroke corrections, no stopwatches, just time to play and do fun things. There was always lots of options in a place as big as Mountain View Community Center. It had 3 different pools: a 25-meter training pool where the Vipers swam, an extra deep diving pool, and a recreational pool with a lazy river, a row of spray nozzles, ropes, and all the water toys you could ever ask for. Dripping wet, Julia walked quickly toward the separate diving pool. Julia knew she was never allowed to run on the pool deck. The lifeguards made sure of that. She watched her teammates, Olivia and Taylor Bleiberg, dash off in the same direction. They headed for the 1-meter springboard, doing their best fast walk that wasn't technically running. Julia thought about joining them, but counted all the people already in line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then Olivia and Taylor. There was no way she was going to wait for 7 people to dive ahead of her, with only 5 minutes of free time. How could she spend them waiting? She thought about the rope swing, but there was too many people there. The lazy river was also jam-packed. She turned to face the diving pool. The deepest part of the pool was directly underneath the 10-meter platform. Anyone who dove from that height was so brave, but the other end of the diving pool was still plenty deep and, more importantly, not crowded. Julia launched herself into a cannonball in a corner away from the diving boards. Through the ripples in the water, Julia spied a yellow diving brick on the pool floor. Sometimes people threw bricks or waved rings into the water, thinking that they could dive and pick them up. But diving to the bottom of the pool was difficult. It was deeper than people imagined. You had to know how to kick really hard and propel your body quickly downward, or you would run out of air before you knew it. Julia decided she could use her precious splash time to retrieve the brick and put it back with all the other equipment that the swim team, and sometimes lifeguards, used for training. It would be fun and helpful at the same time. Before plunging deep into the water, Julia looked over at the diving board and spotted Olivia and Taylor in line. They held their arms in front of their chests, shivering because they were still waiting for their turns. They might not even get a single dive in before time was up. Gripping the edge of the pool, Julia inhaled as deeply as she could. With one swift motion, she dove. As she kicked and a trail of bubbles floated away behind her, something felt off. That brick wasn't too far. She wasn't going to make it. The brick was too far. She couldn't really understand. Julia had dove this dive so many times before. She had to turn back to the surface. Back with her head above the water, Julia used her best egg-beater leg kicks to tread water while she tried to puzzle what was the matter. She adjusted her swim cap. When she wore one for too long, it got too stretchy, and it wouldn't stay on her head properly. She tugged it down, but the cap was firmly on her head. That wasn't the problem. With her legs still spinning around and round, she checked her goggles. They were tight, but not too tight. Sometimes if she pulled the straps too hard, she was left with dark circles around her eyes that made her look like a panda bear for hours afterwards. The goggles were fine. Julia rocked her head from side to side. She swallowed hard and stretched her body to reach the edge of the pool. Julia felt frustrated. Something was definitely wrong. It just wasn't clear exactly what. Using both hands, she pinched the concrete edge of the pool and placed the soles of her feet against the tiled wall. She tried to think. She was fine during practice, but now it was like something in her head fell out of place. Maybe she was just a little tired. Practice had been hard. Perhaps all she needed were a few minutes of rest. After taking a few slow breaths, Julia pushed off the wall with her feet and tried once more to reach the brick at the bottom of the pool. This time, she was forced back up to the surface by a sharp pain in her ear.